sky over Tehran did not explode. It went silent. No sirens, no warning, no speech-interrupting state television. Just a single message that flashed across millions of phones at exactly 3:17 a.m. The leader is gone. For 12 seconds, nobody breathed. Then the power grid failed, and the world tilted. Reza was not a soldier. He was a night shift paramedic finishing cold tea in the back of an ambulance when the lights across the city blinked once, twice, and vanished. Hospitals dropped into emergency generators. Traffic lights died. Elevators froze mid-floor. His radio crackled, not with orders, with screaming. Then the second message arrived. American strike confirmed. That's when the fear turned into something else, not confusion, not grief, rage. And somewhere, thousands of miles away, in a bunker carved into Nevada rock, a young intelligence officer whispered the words she never imagined would leave her mouth. We just changed history. But no one yet understood what that meant, because this wasn't just an assassination, it was a detonation, not of a building, of a balance. For decades, tensions simmered like a fault line under the Middle East. Proxy wars, cyber attacks, sanctions, threats. But lines were never crossed, until tonight. And when a line that big disappears, everything starts sliding. Inside Tehran, mosques filled before sunrise. Clerics called it martyrdom, generals called it war, crowds called for vengeance. But in Washington, the word being whispered wasn't victory, it was containment. The president had approved the operation 11 hours earlier. It was precise, clinical, strategic. The intelligence was clear. Iran was preparing something irreversible, something that could alter regional power overnight. The strike was meant to prevent catastrophe. Instead, it triggered one. At 4:02 a.m., Iran's Revolutionary Command activated Protocol Ashfall. Satellite feeds showed missile units mobilizing across western provinces. Underground silos unlocking. Submarine fleets changing depth. The world's markets hadn't opened yet, but oil futures were already detonating in after-hours trading. And that was before the first retaliatory launch. In Tel Aviv, early joggers froze mid-stride when their emergency alert apps vibrated simultaneously. Incoming. No one knew from where yet, but everyone knew why. Air defense systems lit up the horizon before sunrise. White streaks carving the dawn sky. Some missiles were intercepted, some were not. And that's when the global chain reaction began. Because Iran didn't strike America first, it struck the chessboard. Energy infrastructure in the Gulf, shipping lanes in the Strait of Hormuz, cyber assaults on European grids, and within 90 minutes, 3 NATO nations were experiencing coordinated system failures. Hospitals offline, air traffic control compromised, financial networks scrambling. This wasn't revenge, it was pressure. A signal to the world, if we burn, you burn with us. But here's what no one saw coming. Russia didn't condemn the strike. China didn't support it. Instead, both went quiet. And silence between superpowers is never neutral. It's calculation. Military satellites repositioned. Naval fleets adjusted trajectory. Emergency summits were scheduled, then cancelled. The United Nations called for de-escalation. No one answered. Back in Tehran, millions poured into the streets by mid-morning. Not morning. Demanding action. Banners rose. Flags burned. Speakers shouted one word over and over: retaliate. The new interim leadership faced an impossible choice. If they did nothing, they looked weak. If they escalated, they risked annihilation. And that's when intelligence intercepted something terrifying. Iran wasn't planning a conventional response. It was considering a threshold weapon. Not nuclear. Worse. Something deniable. Something that could cripple a nation without leaving fingerprints. Meanwhile, in Washington, the briefing room felt colder than usual. Satellite images filled the screens, red zones expanding, cyber alerts multiplying. An analyst cleared her throat. There's chatter about coordinated strikes on US soil. The room went silent. Not military bases. Civilian infrastructure. ports, power stations, major bridges, the kind of targets that don't win wars. They unravel societies. By noon Eastern Time, American cities began receiving elevated threat alerts. Schools locked down, transit halted, National Guard mobilized in key metropolitan areas. News anchors tried to stay calm, but their voices betrayed them, because the question nobody wanted to ask was forming anyway. Did America just ignite World War III? In the Persian Gulf, the first direct clash occurred at 1427 local time. An Iranian fast attack craft closed distance with a US destroyer. Warnings were issued, ignored. A flare shot into the sky, then another, and then gunfire. Not symbolic, real. Within 6 minutes, both vessels were damaged. Images leaked online before official statements were drafted. Fear spreads faster than missiles, and it was spreading everywhere. But here's the twist. The original intelligence that justified the strike, it wasn't fully verified. There were dissenting analysts, conflicting satellite interpretations, a missing 8% of data. 8%. That's all it takes for uncertainty to become disaster. And now that uncertainty was buried under fire. At 18:03 GMT, Iran made its declaration official. State television returned to air. The interim Supreme Council announced, the United States has committed an act of war against the Islamic Republic. We respond not with anger, but with justice. Translation: war, formal, public, irreversible. Crowds roared, missile batteries rearmed, and somewhere in the Mediterranean, a US carrier group shifted to combat posture. But global war doesn't start with one explosion. It starts with alliances testing loyalty. Turkey demanded emergency consultations. Israel mobilized reserves. Saudi Arabia closed airspace. Europe scrambled to protect energy corridors. And China? China began evacuating citizens from regional hotspots. That's not diplomacy, that's preparation. Meanwhile, cyber units on both sides escalated. Banking systems flickered. Satellites experienced interference. GPS signals destabilized over parts of Asia. Commercial airlines rerouted. Insurance markets froze. And ordinary families, from Tehran to Texas, began stockpiling food. Because once the word war is spoken out loud, it never shrinks. It grows. Then came the broadcast that shattered any illusion of restraint. A masked Iranian commander appeared on screen. Behind him, maps. Behind the maps, targets. He didn't threaten cities. He threatened timelines. Within 72 hours, he said, the American century ends. Not through invasion, through paralysis. Energy grids, supply chains, digital infrastructure. A war designed not to conquer territory, but to collapse confidence. In response, the United States elevated DEFCON levels not seen in decades. Submarines repositioned, air wings armed, strategic bombers fueled. But the administration faced a dilemma: strike back immediately or attempt back-channel diplomacy, because the first true superpower exchange could lock the world into escalation beyond control. And then something unexpected happened. A third nation launched missiles, not at America, not at Iran, at a regional rival. Using the chaos as cover, suddenly the conflict fractured into multiple fronts. This wasn't a two-player game anymore. It was a cascade. Oil prices crossed historic thresholds. Global markets halted trading. Refugee corridors began forming. The Strait of Hormuz effectively closed, and energy-dependent nations faced blackouts within days. That's when panic turned global, because even countries not firing a single shot were now casualties. Inside Washington's War Council, a final briefing arrived. The intelligence that triggered the original strike? New analysis suggested it may have been a deception, not fabricated, manipulated. By whom? Unknown. But if true, it meant America may have been maneuvered, provoked, played. And now the cost was unfolding in real time. As night fell again over Tehran, the city glowed, not from celebration, from fire. Retaliatory airstrikes had begun targeting military installations. Explosions echoed across mountains. Civilians fled underground parking structures. Hospitals overflowed. And Reza, the paramedic from the beginning, found himself treating shrapnel wounds under candlelight. He looked at a young child crying in his mother's arms, and he whispered something no headline could capture. This is only the first night. Because war doesn't peak on day one. It accelerates. And somewhere deep beneath both nations, contingency plans long considered unthinkable were being unlocked. Plans involving weapons never tested in live conflict. Plans involving alliances never publicly acknowledged. Plans that, once activated, cannot be reversed. The president prepared to address the nation. Tehran prepared its second wave. Global leaders prepared evacuation routes. And intelligence agencies prepared for something darker than missiles. A coordinated digital blackout. If launched, it would erase financial records, disable communications, and blind entire defense networks. The world wouldn't just fight, it would go dark. As the clock ticked toward the 24-hour mark since the strike, one final transmission was intercepted, encrypted, fragmented, but chillingly clear. Phase 2 authorized. No one yet knew what Phase 2 meant, but satellite images showed unusual heat signatures in multiple undisclosed locations. Missile shields adjusted automatically, submarine fleets went silent, and in homes across the globe, families stared at screens waiting for answers that weren't coming because history had just pivoted. And no one knew if it would stop at regional war or spiral into something humanity has never survived. The next 24 hours would decide that. And the worst part? Both sides believed they were acting defensively. At 3:16 a.m., exactly 24 hours after the first message, the internet flickered. Not everywhere. Just enough. Banking apps stalled mid-transaction. Navigation systems recalculated into nothing. Emergency call centers glitched for half a second. Half a second is harmless, unless it's synchronized. Then it's a warning shot, and this one had a signature. Phase 2. In a darkened control room beneath Tehran, a technician stared at cascading green code. He wasn't launching missiles. He was erasing certainty. Global logistics algorithms were being quietly poisoned. Shipping routes altered by decimals. Fuel supply forecasts skewed. Power distribution loads miscalculated by margins too small to trigger alarms. Individually, harmless. Collectively, catastrophic. Within 6 hours, 3 major US ports reported unexpected congestion. Within 8, fuel shortages began appearing in cities that had plenty the night before. No bombs, no smoke, just a creeping systemic collapse. And Washington understood something chilling. This wasn't retaliation, it was architecture. The president's emergency address never aired because the broadcast satellites were briefly blinded. Jammed from an unknown vector. When signal returned, the speech was shorter than planned. Measured, controlled, but one phrase slipped through. We are under coordinated attack. Markets didn't reopen. Airlines grounded flights indefinitely. The National Guard presence doubled in urban centers. And then the first American city lost power. Not from sabotage, from overload. Hospitals switched to backup. Water treatment plants faltered. Panic turned audible. Meanwhile, in the Strait of Hormuz, something moved beneath thermal detection grids, unmanned, silent, small. US sonar operators tracked the object for 11 seconds before it disappeared into acoustic clutter. Minutes later, a commercial tanker reported hull damage, not sunk, just disabled. Shipping halted instantly. Oil prices didn't rise this time. They spiked vertically. Energy-dependent nations across Europe began rolling blackouts within hours. And that's when NATO convened an emergency session with a single terrifying question. Does Article 5 apply to infrastructure warfare? No one had a clear answer, because no one had ever tested it like this. Back in Tehran, airstrikes intensified, military depots ignited, radar sites flattened, runways cratered. But Iran's leadership had anticipated conventional response. That wasn't the battlefield anymore. The battlefield was psychological, a viral video began circulating globally. Unverified footage showing what appeared to be an American drone strike gone wrong. Civilian casualties, children. The clip spread faster than fact-checking. Protests erupted in multiple capitals within hours, not against Iran, against escalation. Public opinion fractured alliances faster than missiles ever could. And somewhere in Moscow, a general smiled, because chaos weakens everyone. Inside the Pentagon, analysts uncovered the missing 8%, the intelligence gap that preceded the original strike. It wasn't fabricated, it was seeded. A third-party cyber intrusion had altered satellite metadata timestamps, subtle enough to avoid detection, precise enough to shift threat assessment probability from developing risk to imminent. Someone had engineered urgency. Someone wanted the strike to happen. The question was no longer, why did America kill Iran's supreme leader? It became, who maneuvered both sides into this moment? And were they finished? At 1942 GMT, a new alarm triggered across North American defense networks. Ballistic trajectory detected. Not from Iran, from an unregistered launch platform in international waters. Vector uncertain. Payload unknown. Missile defense systems activated automatically. Interceptors fired. The object disintegrated at high altitude. Debris scattered harmlessly into the ocean, but its origin remained unidentified. A phantom launch, designed not to destroy, but to provoke miscalculation. Because if either side had mistaken it for escalation, the response would have been irreversible. Reza, still working under intermittent power in Tehran, noticed something strange. The airstrikes were becoming surgical. Precision targeting, minimal civilian damage. It wasn't annihilation, it was containment, which meant Washington still hoped for an off-ramp. But hope shrinks under pressure, and pressure was building everywhere. Food supply chains faltered. ATMs emptied. Social media flooded with conflicting narratives. Rumors of chemical threats, rumors of nuclear mobilization, rumors of betrayal inside both governments. Fear doesn't require truth. It only requires possibility. Then came the blackout, not regional, global. For 47 seconds, satellite communications froze, stock exchanges lost sync, military early warning systems reverted to fail-safe protocols. In nuclear doctrine, 47 seconds of blindness is eternity. Submarine captains reached for confirmation codes. Air defense operators hovered over escalation thresholds. One mistaken interpretation and history ends, but the systems rebooted. Signals restored. No launches followed. Whoever triggered the blackout wanted proximity to disaster, not disaster itself. Yet, China broke its silence, not with condemnation, with deployment. A peacekeeping fleet entered contested waters under humanitarian pretext. Simultaneously, Russian air defense units were repositioned closer to European borders. Neither fired a shot, but both altered geometry. The world was no longer polarized. It was triangulated. 3 powers, 2 active combatants, 1 invisible instigator. And alliances began to wobble. Inside Washington, a classified meeting reached a conclusion too dangerous for press conferences. If infrastructure collapse continued at current rate, domestic instability would eclipse foreign threat within 10 days. Cyber retaliation options were prepared, not defensive, offensive, targeting power grids, financial cores, command hierarchies. But analysts warned Iran's systems were decentralized by design, hard to cripple, easy to escalate, which meant retaliation might expand the battlefield beyond control. In Tehran, the interim leadership faced equal pressure. Hardliners demanded a decisive strike, something symbolic, something unforgettable. Moderates argued for strategic endurance, let economic strangulation force negotiation. But crowds in the streets were no longer patient, and legitimacy in wartime is fragile. That's when intelligence delivered another shock. Evidence linking the Phantom missile launch to a rogue private military network operating across multiple continents. Not state-owned, not officially aligned, funded through black market energy futures. profiting from volatility. War as investment strategy. If proven true, it meant this entire escalation, assassination, retaliation, cyber collapse, may have been engineered to trigger market shock at planetary scale. Weaponized economics. The president authorized a covert back channel to Tehran, encrypted diplomatic relay through a neutral intermediary. A single proposal, simultaneous de-escalation within 12 hours, cease airstrikes, suspend cyber offensives, joint investigation into third-party interference. But the message required trust, and trust had already been vaporized. Hours passed, no reply. Missile batteries on both sides remained armed. Submarines held position, and the public knew nothing of the near misses happening above their heads. Then, without warning, Iran halted launches. Not announced, not declared, just stopped. US airstrikes decreased minutes later. An invisible synchronization. Back channel received, considered, accepted conditionally. But the rogue network had one final card. A massive, coordinated cyber surge targeted global financial clearinghouses. If executed, it would wipe trillions in digital assets instantly. Economic apocalypse. Both nations detected the buildup simultaneously. For the first time in 48 hours, they shared intelligence. Joint counter-cyber measures deployed. Servers isolated. Attack vectors traced. And in a race measured in milliseconds, the surge was neutralized, markets stabilized, blackout avoided. Barely. By dawn on the third day, missile launches had ceased. Naval skirmishes paused. Cyber offensives reduced to surveillance. The world exhaled, not in relief, in exhaustion. Tehran burned in places. American cities bore scars of disruption. Global markets trembled but stood, and investigators began uncovering the truth. The assassination, the manipulated intelligence, the phantom missile, the market positions taken days before conflict, all converged toward a decentralized shadow consortium betting against global stability. War as leverage, chaos as currency. The question that began everything, why did America kill Iran's supreme leader, was no longer simple. It wasn't vengeance, it wasn't conquest. It was a decision made under engineered urgency, a move on a board rigged by players who never appear on camera, and the world nearly shattered because of it. Reza finally stepped outside after 72 sleepless hours. Smoke drifted across Tehran's skyline, but the city still stood. He checked his phone. One message from his sister. Is it over? He looked at the horizon, at the fragile quiet, and he whispered, for now, because de-escalation isn't peace, it's pause. The rogue network wasn't dismantled. The alliances were still fractured. The precedent had been set. Infrastructure can be weaponized. Intelligence can be manipulated. Global war can ignite without a single nuclear detonation. World War III didn't arrive as mushroom clouds. It arrived as doubt, and doubt is harder to defeat. In Washington, the president signed an executive order creating a joint cyber defense coalition with former adversaries. In Tehran, leadership reforms accelerated under public pressure. In Moscow and Beijing, strategies were recalculated. But beneath the surface, the architects of chaos adapted, because markets stabilized, which meant their positions shifted. War was profitable, but survival, even more so. And somewhere in a quiet server farm far from any battlefield, a screen refreshed. Green numbers climbed. A voice, unseen, said only, Phase 3 will require something bigger. The camera never reveals who said it, because the most dangerous enemies aren't the ones with flags, they're the ones with patience. And now the world knows how fragile its balance truly is. The supreme leader is gone. America bears the weight of that choice. Iran carries the scar, and the planet stands one engineered crisis away from real annihilation. The next trigger may not be visible. The next manipulation may be deeper. The next escalation, faster. Because history has learned something terrifying. You don't need nuclear weapons to start World War III. You only need fear, and someone willing to monetize it.